Begin today the Gemara on Daf Pei Aleph on the Beis, the last line. The Mishnah here listed a few things where the halacha is kanon poigim bay, that while the Aveda is happening and a kanoi, a zealot, is there, so he can be pageya, he can kill the person during this Aveda. One of them is Boyal Aramis, one that has a relation with a goya. So Rav Kahana asks Rav about this. Loi pogu by kanoin. Mahu. If a kanoi was not there and didn't kill this person, what is the punishment for one that has a relation with an Aramis? In Shei Rav l'Gemara. Rav forgot this halacha that he knew, and he didn't know how to answer the Rav Kahana his shaila. So Akru l'Rav Kahana b'chalmei. It was read to Rav Kahana in a dream the following pasuk: Bagda Yehuda, which refers to Yidden. They rebelled against the Eibishter. V'toyeven asas b'Yisrael. An abomination was done amongst Yidden. Ub Yerushalayim, and in the city of Yerushalayim. Kichilel Yehuda Kodesh Hashem. They desecrated what's holy to Hashem. Asher Ohev, which Hashem loves. Ubal Bas Kel Nechar, and they had a relation with a Bas Kel Nechar. So what is this pasuk talking about? So this is the pasuk he saw in his dream. Also, Amalei. So Rav Kahana came and told Rav the pasuk that he saw in his dream. Amalei, and he says to Rav, Hachi Akaryan, this is what was read to me in my dream. Atkere Rav l'Gemara. So this reminded Rav the halacha regarding the Boyal Aramis. And he said as follows: the pshat in the pasuk is Bagda Yehuda zu Avedas Kechavim. First part of the pasuk means Yidden sinned in Avodah Zarah. The term Bagda is Avodah Zarah. V'cheinu Omer. It says in another pasuk when Yidden sinned with Avodah Zarah came Bagatem bi Beis Yisrael Noum Hashem. When it says in this pasuk v'toyeva nesasa b'Yisrael b'Yerushalayim, what's this term of toyeva, abomination? Zeh mishkav zachar. This refers to mishkav zachar v'cheinu omer v'zachar leisishkav mishkav isha, and the pasuk includes toyeva he. When it says here in this pasuk Yichilu Yehuda Kodesh Hashem Zuzayna, it refers to znus v'cheinu omer. The pasuk says, and the actual quote of the pasuk is L'siyah Kadesha Mibnei Yisrael, and then the pasuk concludes L'yiyah Kadesh Mibnei Yisrael. When someone designates himself for Znos, so you're desecrating the Kedusha of a Yid, that's why it's referred to as a Kadesha, and that's what it means here, Chilal Yehuda Kodesh Hashem, to desecrate the Kedusha of the Eibishter. And then when it says, this is what's relevant for us here, Uba Basel Nechar Ze Haba Alakutis. It refers to one that has a relation with a guy, and what does the pasuk now say? And this is the source that Rav said that you see what his punishment is. Oksiv Basrei. So the pasuk there goes on to say, Yachreis Hashem leish asher yasena. Hashem will give kares to the one that does this. What will the Eibishter cut? Eir va'oina. And the right gersa here in the pasuk is me'ahal Yaakov. There won't be any eir or oina from the tent of Yaakov. We'll see in a second the taich of that. Umagish mincha Hashem tzvois, or to bring a carbon mincha for Hashem. So what this pasuk is saying is, regarding one that's Boyal Aramis, im Talmud Chachamu, if he's a Talmud Chacham, lo yiloi er b'chachamim, he will not have the sharp mind to discuss Torah with the Chachamim. The word er means sharpness. And v'oina b'talmidim, and he won't have the ability to answer in questions of Torah to talmidim. Im kayenu, if he's a kayin, lo yiloi ben magish minchal Hashem tzvais, he won't have a son that will continue to do the Aveda to bring the carbon in the Beis HaMikdash. This is the source that he learned out, the punishment for one that is Boyal Aramis. Rab Chiya bar Avuya said, Kol haba lakutis, one that has a relation with a guy, ki'ilu mischatim b'avedas kechavim. It's like he's getting married to Avodah Zarah itself. Because in the pasuk we quoted, it says, Uba basel nechar, that he's being Boyal who? The daughter of Kel Nechar. So what does this mean? V'chi bas yesh le'el nechar. There's a daughter to Avodah Zarah. One that has a relation with a guy is like he's having a relation with the Avodah Zarah itself. Rab Chiya bar Avuya said, quoting here the same Amayra that explained another story as well. Kosov al galgalasai shel Yehoyakim. It's written on the skull of the head of the king Yehoyakim, which was a big Rasha and Aviv Avodah Zarah. So his skull was found in the city of Yerushalayim, and it was written on his skull, Zais that this punishment, that he wasn't buried properly, and there's going to be an additional punishment as well. Now the Gemara goes on now here to elaborate and bring the details of the story. The grandfather of Rab Preda, which is the same individual that was just mentioned here, Rab Chiya bar Avuya, he was the grandfather of Rab Preda. Ashkach, Ahu, Gulgalta, he found the skull the Havas Shadye Bishar Yerushalayim, that was thrown down in the gates of Yerushalayim. And as mentioned, it was written on this skull, which is the skull of Tzidkiyahu HaMelech, Zois, or Yehoyakim, Yehoyakim HaMelech, Zois Vaydacheres. This is one punishment, and there's yet another punishment for him. So what did he do with it? He said he went and covered up. He buried it. After all, it's the skull of a king, and he said, we're going to bury it. What happened? V'hadanovuk, it popped out of the ground. Covered, so he buried it again. V'hadanovuk, it popped out of the ground again. So he understood that there's something over here that's strange about this. So Amar, he said, some Agoyres here, Dilme, Hai Gulgalta Shal Yayakim. Maybe this is the skull of the king Yayakim, the Chsiv Bey, that one of the punishments it says about him is that Kvuras Chamoyer Yikaver, he's going to be buried like a donkey. He's going to be schlepped around and thrown down in the city of Yerushalayim. And that's what happened. That's why his skull was not properly buried. So Amar, but he said, Malkuhu, after all, he was a king, and it's not appropriate that he should be embarrassed this way. So Shokla, he couldn't bury it because it would pop out of the ground, so he took the skull, he wrapped it in silk, and he put it in his chest. So he put it away. Asai, the Bisu, his wife came home, Chazisa, she opens up the chest, and she finds something wrapped, and she opens up and she sees a skull. Nafkes, she goes out, Amralahu, Lishvivasaha, she says to her neighbor, look what I found in my chest, my husband brought home this, or has this. Amrillah, so her neighbor said to her, hi, you know what this is? The Itzak HaMaisihi, this is a skull from his previous wife. The Lek Kamin Shila, he doesn't forget his previous wife, he can't disconnect from his previous wife. So his wife got upset about this, so what did she do? She took the skull, she threw it into the oven and burnt it. Also, when Abchir Baravuya came home, Omar, he said, this is the meaning of the additional punishment that was inscribed on this skull. Zois, one punishment that it wasn't buried, and now an additional punishment that it was burnt in the oven by his wife. When Avdimi came, Omar, he said, and from the times of the Bezdin of the Chashmonaim, Gozru, they decreed that Abba Lakutis, that one that has a relation with a guy, Chayiv Aleo, so then he's going to be Chayiv for this. In other words, he's going to be punished for all the following. Mishum Najga. Now, what does this Najga stand for? Najga is Nida. So Rashi explains that even though having a relation with a guy is not, there's no nida by a guy, the blood by a guy is like a dam of a behemoth, but nevertheless it's mos, it's despicable, and it's a chil to the kedusha of a yid, and therefore it's like having a relation with a nida. The shin stands for shivcha. It's like having a relation with a shivcha kananis, because a yid is referred to as gevirta, as the owner, and the guy is the shivcha, so it's like having a relation with a shivcha. And also the gimel stands for goya, having a relation with, actually it's considered as if you got married to a guy. So Rashi here brings that the lav menatayra to get married to a guy is the lav of leitis chatenbam, and that's only if you actually get married. But they were geyser that even if it's just a relation, it should be considered as if you are over on the lav of leitis chatenbam, and you get that punishment. And the last one is the aleph is eishes ish. Now, even though by Goyim there's no such a thing really as eishes ish, because there's no kiddushin by a guy, but nevertheless it's similar to kiddushin because they live with their husband, and there you have a relation with this guy, you're over on, and you get the punishment for eishes ish. That's one version. When Ravin came, so he said mishum nashgaz. So he said nashgaz. So the first three, the nida, shivcha, and goya is the same, but the zayin he exchanged with the aleph. Instead of eishes ish, he said that the last one is they get punished for a zayna. So here, so the Gemara says nida shivcha goya zayna, and the last one is zayna. But according to Ravin, avim shum ishus leslahu. But there's no punishment for ishus eishes ish because there is no eishes ish by a guy. Besides what Rashi says, besides the fact that there's no kiddushin by a guy, but by the goyim, the wives, they're hefker, and therefore there's no Indian of eishes ish there. Adarab, it's just the isra of a zayna. But the first opinion of Dimi, he said that it is Najga, which is Eishes Ish. It's because Nashayu Vadele Mafkeri, even though the Goyim are Hefker, but with a wife, she's not completely Hefker, and therefore there is going to be the punishment of Eishes Ish. Okay, now going back to the original halacha of Habayel Aramis. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Chizdeh, Haba Limolech, one that comes to consult and ask the Bezdin, what does he do about this case of one that's boil aramis? We don't teach him the halacha that paigim baya, that kanoi paigim baya, that he can kill while this act is going on. It manami yom Rabba Bar Bachana Rabbi Yochanan Abali Molech, one that comes to consult and ask the question about this, we don't teach him to do this. And now, here the Gemara brings the source of this whole inyan, Barichas Gedayla, Benegayat to how this was, by the story of Zimri, when Pinchas, that's the source, that he killed him while the Aveda was going on. Says the Gemara, by that case, so not only this, Al She'im Pirish Zimri, V'hargai Pinchas, if Zimri would have separated already from the act of the Aveda, and Pinchas would have killed him, Naragalof, Pinchas would have been killed for this, because the Kanon Paigim Bay is only B'shas Maisa by the Aveda, but not a second later. And not only that, Nepach Zimri, V'hargai Le Pinchas, if Zimri would have turned around and killed Pinchas, Ein Naragalof, Zimri would not be killed for this. Sharei Reidefu, because Pinchas is a Reidef, he's trying to kill him, and he's not Chayiv Misa. Some Rishonim learn out from this Gemara that it means Kipshutai, that the Boyal Aramis is not Chayiv Misa, although the Kanoi is allowed to go and kill him, but nevertheless he's not Chayiv Misa, to the extent, as the Gemara says here, that if Zimri would turn around, he would be allowed to kill him, because he's a Reidef. Others say that this refers only afterwards. If afterwards he would go and kill him, then he wouldn't be Chayiv for being a Reidef. So the Rebbe brings this in a Sikh in Chelik Ches, in the second Sikh there of Parshas Balak. It's a whole discussion in the Rishonim here about this Inyan, whether the Boyal Aramis is Chayiv Misa, Elamai, the oifen of how you give the Misa is through the Kanoi that is Paigeya and kills him, or he's not Chayiv Misa. It's just the Inyan that the Kanoi has this to express his Kanos that he is Paigeya, but he's not Chayiv Misa B'chlal. In the Sikha, the Rebbe is a big arichis, the Maskana, the Rebbe says it's mistaver, like the Rishonim say, that he is Chayiv Misa, but it doesn't come through the regular way of Misa's Bezin, but it comes through the Kanoi. And we'll see over here also from the Hemshcha the Sugya. Okay, so now what's the whole story that happened there by Pinchas when he killed Zimri? So when the Yidden then was sinning with the Aveda of Baal Pa'ir, and they were having this nus with the Bnei Midyan, so Moshe Rabbeinu says to the judges of Yidden that Halech Shiftoi, Moshe Rabbeinu says, the continuation of the pasuk says that he tells them, Hirgu ish anashav hanitzmodim leBaal Pa'ir, to kill those that are connecting to Baal Pa'ir and serving away the Zara and with Znus as well. So when this was happening, so the Shevet of Shimon goes to their Nasi, Zimri ben Salu, and Amrullah, they say to him, Hein donen dinen nefashis. They're judging and killing people for dinen nefashis. And you're quiet about this, they're going to come and kill people from your Shevet. So Ma also, what did Zimri ben Salu do? Amat, he got up, the kibbutz chov dalet elef misrael. He gathered 24,000 Yidden. V'halach etzel Cosby, and he went to Cosby, which was a princess, a daughter from one of the kings of Midian. And Amallah, he said to her, Ashmi'ili, listen to me. In other words, you wanted to be mizana with her. Amrallah, she says to him, Bas melechani, I'm a princess. And v'chein tziva liyavi, this is what my father commanded me. Leitishmi el legadol shebehem. Don't listen to anybody unless you could stumble, you can cause to stumble the greatest amongst them. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu. So Amallah, so Zimri ben Salu says to her, Afu nasi shevitu. He, referring to himself, I'm also a nasi of a shevet. And not only this, shuhu gadol mimenu. I'm greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. Shuhu sheni lebeten. He comes from shevet Levi. Shuhu referring to himself. He, himself, I am second to my mother, which is Shevet Shimon, the second. And Vahu Shlishi Lebeten. And Moshe Rabbeinu is from Shevet Levi, which is third. So I'm greater than him. So then she was convinced. Now Tafsa Biblurisa, he grabbed onto her by her hair, by her ponytail. Vehevia Eitzel Moshe. He came with her, he brought it to Moshe Rabbeinu. Amalai, he says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Ben Amra, Zu Asura or Muteres. Is she Aser or Mutter? And then he continued, V'im Taima Asura, if you're going to say that she is forbidden, so then Bas Yisra Miyitirolach, the daughter of Yisra, who allowed you to get married to her. She's also a Goya. So now Rashi here says that it's not a question of Bechlal, because what Moshe Rabbeinu did was before Matan Torah, when everybody is like the Bnei Noach, And then we see that the Erev Rav also joined Klal Yisrael, and therefore then Moshe Rabbeinu was allowed to bring her and to join Klal Yisrael and to marry Tzipora. So it wasn't really a question at all. But now the Gemara says what happened is Nis'alma mimenu halacha. The halacha about what should be done here was concealed from Moshe Rabbeinu. This halacha of Kana and Poigim Bay. So go kulam b'bchiyah. Everybody was crying because Zimri ben Solo went to do an aveda with her, and nobody knew how to react there. What's the einish? What do we do? This is what the pasuk there says. They were crying at the opening of their El Moed. Now then it says that Pinchas came along. Pinchas ben Elazar saw. What did he see? Marah. So there's a few things that the Gemara says he saw. Omar Rav said, Ra Maise. He saw this story happening, and v'niskar halacha. And remember what the halacha is. So Amallah, he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Achi avi Abba, the brother of my grandfather, in other words, his great uncle, Aaron's brother, and he's Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, Loikach limadetoni, isn't this what you taught me? Beridetucha mi Har Sinai, when you came down from Har Sinai, hadaraboyol aramis, kanon paigamboy, that it's a halacha l'meishmi Sinai, that when I boil aramis during the time of the actual Aveda, so kanon come and paigeya and kill. So now Amaloi, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Kraine, the Igris, the one that's reading the letter, parvanke. He should be the messenger to actually fulfill it. So Moshe Rabbeinu said that he should go ahead and do it. Another pshat, what did Pinchas see? Shmuel Lama, Shmuel said, Ra, he saw the pasuk that says, Shein chochme, ve'in tfune, ve'in eitzah neged Hashem. There's no wisdom, there's no understanding, and there's no advice of anything you can do when there's something happening that's going against Hashem. And that means, Komokin, sheyesh chilul Hashem. In any case where Hashem's name is being desecrated, you don't give any honor even for the greatest Rav. Usually, it's a very severe thing for one not to paskin a halacha in front of his teacher. But because there was the issue of Chilul Hashem over here, so therefore he paskin this halacha even in front of his teacher. Okay, now that's another pshat. A third pshat, Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Yitzchak says in the name of Rabbi Lazar, Ra, what he saw was Shabbat Malach v'Hishchis Ba'am. There's a Malach that's coming and is beginning to kill amongst Yidden. So he wanted to prevent this. So Vayaka Mitoich Ha'eda, he got up from amongst the people, from the Yidden, Vayikach Roimach B'Yodai, and he took the spear in his hands. What does this mean? Why did he take the spear into his hands now? So Mikan, because he was standing in the Bismedrish there together with Moshe Rabbeinu. So from here we learn she'einich nasin b'klizayin lebeis hamedrish, that you don't enter with weapons into the Bismedrish. Okay, this is an interesting source for this concept. There's a discussion about this in times where it's needed for security and so on. In Eretz Yisrael and other situations, there was a whole discussion about it regarding coming in with weapons in the Bismedrish. Okay, now Shalaf. Shinana, what he did is he took this spear and he took off the blade of it, so no one should notice that it's actually a spear. And he put it into his garment. Nishan, and he was walking with it. He's walking with it as if it's a cane. And when he arrived to Shevet Shemen, so he didn't want anyone to detect what he's about to do. So Omar, he said to the people of Shevet Shemen, Heichal Matzinu sheshifta Shalevi Gadol Mishal Shemen. Where do we find that Shevet Levi is on a higher level, greater than Shemen? We're not on any higher level than you. He was, in other words, trying to imply that I'm ready to join you in what you're doing with the Bnei Smoyav and to be mafker myself as well. I'm coming to join you in the Avedis here as well. That's what they understood from him. So when they heard this, Amru, the people of Shevet Shemen said, Hanichuloi, allow him afulas istrachav nichnas. He's coming to do an Aveda here as well. And they let him go. They let him pass all the way through to go there where Zimri ben Sala was. And they said, Hitiru Prushim Esadava. Look, even the Prushim, even from Shevet Levi, a person like Pinchas was also matter, also said that this is allowed. So then he went and with his spear and he killed Zimri ben Sala with Kozbi Basur. Says the Gemara about this, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Shisha Nisim Nasul Pinchas. There were 6 miracles that happened to Pinchas at that moment. Echa, the first miracle is as soon as he saw that he was coming, so he should have already separated from her, but he didn't. And if he would have separated from her, he wouldn't be allowed to kill him. Another miracle, that Zimri ben Saul should have screamed and gotten someone else's attention to save him, but he didn't scream. So he was able to kill him. Another miracle, that he killed them and he was able to put the spear right over there in the place where they were joined together, in order that he should be able to then come and show everybody that it didn't stam kill Cosby Basur, but he killed her because of this Aveda. And another miracle, then he brought them the way they were when they were doing the Aveda. He brought them on the spirit to demonstrate to everyone that they shouldn't think that he stam killed him, and they didn't fall off, and they were there as is at the time of the Aveda on the spirit. And the final miracle was Shabbat, or not the final miracle, one more miracle, Shabbat Malach V'Igbiya Samashkai. When he was walking like this to bring Zimri ben Solo and Cosby Basur together on the Raimach to show everybody, so there was a door with a lintel, and if he would have to now lower himself down, they would have fallen off, but a Malach came and lifted up the lintel so he should be able to pass through and they shouldn't fall off. The final miracle, Shabbat Malach v'Hishchiz ba'am. A Malach came and disturbed, and all the people there was destroyed or killed amongst the people, that they shouldn't take revenge from Pinchas that was walking through. And now Pinchas came v'chavtan l'fnei hamokim, and he threw them down, the bodies of who he killed. He threw them down in front of the Eibishter. He said in front of the Eibishter, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, Al Elu Yiplu Chav Dalid Elef Mi Yisrael. For this Aveda, 24,000 Eden should die. Shenema, as the pasuk says, Vayiyu Amesim B'Magefa Arba Ve'esrim Olaf. 24,000 Eden died. And this is what the pasuk here says, that Pinchas spoke sharply to the Eibishter. It says Vayamid Pinchas. Pinchas stood there, Vayefalo. So now, Vayefalo would sound like it means that he davened. But the Gemara Darshan, Amar Rabbi Lazar, Vayispalel loy nemar. It doesn't say Vayispalel, elo Vayefalo. What does Vayefalo mean? Malamed she'asa kaviyachol, Malamed kaviyachol she'asa or she'asa pli loisim kainai. He made a judgment or a sort of a fight with the Eibishter, speaking sharply this way. Why did 24,000 Yidden die? So after he spoke this way, Bikshu Malach Hasharis L'Dovchai, the Malach Hasharis wanted to push him away. Amalehem, so the Eibishter says to the Malach Hasharis, Hanichulai, leave him. Kanoi ben Kanoi, who is doing it l'shem Shemayim, he's the zealot, the son of a zealot. So Rashi says that because he comes from Shevet Levi, and Levi together with Shimon said Hakazayna Yasa Sachiseina by the story of Dinah, so therefore he's also doing the same like his great grandfather. Meishav Chema ben Meishav Chema. He's one that takes away my anger, the grandson of the one that took away my anger. Rashi says it refers to Aaron HaKayin after the story of Kairach, when the pasuk says Yotza Ketzef, and he took the Titus and went amongst the Yidden. He also took away Hashem's anger. Now after this, the Schilu Shvatim Mevazan Oisai. The Shvatim began to embarrass him, and they said, Reisa Ben Putti Zeh Shepitim Avi Imoy Agol Lavedis Kechavim. Do you see this individual? He's called Ben Putiel. What does Ben Putiel mean? That he's a Ben of someone that his grandfather fattened the calves for Avodah Zarah, because his mother was a daughter from Yisrael. Allah married a daughter from Yisrael, so they said that he took that nature coming from the one that fattened for Avodah Zarah. And now V'hareg Nasi Shevet Mi Yisrael, and he kills a Nasi amongst the Yidden. So the pasuk comes and says his Yichos Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKayin, that what he did was pure for the kanos of the Eibishter, and his Yichos is ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKayin. So the Rebbe speaks about this in also by Riches, this thing that the Shvatim accused him, Ben Putil, Shepitim, that when you take the calves and you fatten them up, and you're giving them to eat a lot, and then right afterwards you shech them, that's an act of sort of cruelty. So they said that what he did here as well was an act of cruelty. That's why they were using specifically this thing of pitim. Pitim ima golma v'edzikechavim. But the Eibishter says no, that he did it all l'shem shemayim, and this is the adarabah, this is the special kanos of Pinchas. And then after this, the Eibishter says, Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'Moshe, haktim loy shalom. Bring him, tell him that he has a special level of shalom, peace. Shenema l'cheina moyer hineni noisim lo birisi shalom. I'll give him my covenant of peace. And v'reuya kaparazu shetehei mechaperes v'ilachas la'olam. This shalom is forever, as the pasuk over there actually says, bris kuhuna soilam tachas hashekina l'lekav v'yachaper. And that's the schar that he got for this kanos that he did. This shalom, which is la'olam, it was a kind of schar that he got, was l'maylam and ateva, because really he wasn't supposed to be a kohen that's allowed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, because he wasn't anointed together with, he was alive then when Aaron and his sons were anointed, and he was not anointed, so he couldn't really be a kohen. And nevertheless, Heipach HaTeva, the Eibishter gave him this kohuna, this to be able to be a kohen, because he did something also, which was Heipach HaTeva, to go and kill this, kill Cosby and then Zimri ben Solo. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rav, Mai Dichsiv. What's the meaning in a pasuk in Mishlei where it says Zarzer Masnayim Oy Tayish Umelech Alkum Imay? So the Gemara here darshans now this entire pasuk, all regarding this story of the Ziznus of Kozbi Basur and the Zimri ben Salu and what Pinchas did. So first of all, the word Zarzer. The word Zarzer, the Gemara is darshaning this now with the gematria of Zarzer. Daled Meis V'Esrim V'Arba Be'ilis Ba'alois Rosh Hashanah. The gematria of Zarzer is 424 Be'ilois. So this Rasha, Zimri ben Salu, was Baal on that day. Some say that, I think the Maral maybe says on this, that this is a guzma. It's an exaggeration. But the Gemara is saying that if he had that taiva to that extent, to such an extent. And then what happened is, Pinchas was waiting until he should get weakened. He waited after all of this. Why? Because he was afraid that he should attack him back. But Pinchas didn't know Melech Alkum Imay, that the Eibishter is, and here the Eibishter is referred to as Alkum, is with him. So going back again to the Lashon the Pasuk, when it says Masnayim May Tayish, the Gemara here is darshaning, Masnayim means Maloshan Hamtein, to wait. He waited, Tayish, for him to get touched, to get weak. But Melech Alkum Imay, Kum means the Eibishter that is Kum, meaning the Eibishter that comes and takes revenge, was there with him to help him. Rashi says an interesting thing about this lashon of alkum that it says here in the pasuk, that this is actually a word that's written in Arabic, because in Arabic before every word they add the word al. So over here it says kum, it goes on the Eibishter that's going to get up and take revenge, and it adds the word alkum in Arabic. Okay, that's one pshat in this. Yeah. Okay, now b'masnita tana, but in Abraise it says differently about this, that Shishim, that he was boiled 60 times, and Rashi says there's no remes for this in the pasuk, until the zera on his body became like a scrambled egg. And vihi oisa, and she was ka'aruga malaya mayim, like a patch that's planted that's full of water. Omer Rav Kahana, and Rav Kahana said, "Umayshava beisa," and her meishav, where she sits, was like wide, like a beisa from the many times that it was boiled there. Tani Rav Yosef, and Rav Yosef said, "Keveshala amma," the opening of her womb was an amma. Omer Rav Sheishes, now Rav Sheishes said about the names of both Kozbi and of Zimri ben Salu, Loi Kozbi Shema. Kozbi is not a real name. What was her real name? Elishvilnoi Basur. That's a real name. Shema. V'lama nikra Shema Kozbi. Why did she get this nickname of Kozbi? Because she kozva be'aviyah. Because she lied to her father. Because her father said that she should only do this to the greatest amongst Yidden, and she went and she had a relation with Shimon, the Nasi of Shimon, which is not the greatest. Tavarachar, another pshat for the name Kozbi. Kozbi means she'amru la'aviyah. She said to her father, Kozbi amzeh, use me to slaughter these people. I'll help you to slaughter amongst the Yidden. This is what people say about this Kozbi. Ben kanila urbani shviloni, my boy. When you see between the reeds and the willow, and you see there shvilnoi, what is she doing there? She's going to such a kind of place in order just to do avedas there in secret. This nus. Or bahadi kalfi de kani shviloni, my boy. Amongst the peeled the peels and the reeds, what is shvilnoi doing there? Gafsali ima. She's doing znus, and even with her mother. This is this nus. This is who she was. She was a Zaina. That's her name. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan said, Chamisha shemes yeshloi. The Zimri, he had 5 different names, and there was only one that was his real name. Zimri, uben Salu, Vishal ben Aknanis, and Shulumiel ben Tsurishadai. So what are all these names? Zimri al shanas kebeitza muzeres. Zimri is because of what it mentioned before, that his zera became like a beitza muzeres. Ben Salu means al shehisli avoinais shal mishpachtoi, that he caused that the avedis that were done in his family. Hisli, Rashi over here says in one pshat, it means that everyone was talking about this. Hamusalam bepaz. Or another pshat Rashi says is that he's guiding that everybody should now interrogate and talk about this matter. Chapes ledaktek. Rashi brings a lashon mesalsel besare, when you same thing here hisli. Shal means al shehishal atzma ledvar aveda. He gave himself, he borrowed himself to an aveda. Ben Aknan is al sha'asa ma'isa Knan, because he did like the actions of Canaan. Rashi he brings that. There were 5 things that Gemara brings in Psachim, that Canaan told his children that he should love Zima. So that's why it says Canaan. Now, Umashmai, what was his actual name? Shlumiel ben Surishadai Shmai. That was his real name, and this is actually Shlumiel ben Surishadai, which is mentioned earlier in Parshas Nosai. He was one of the Nisim that brought the carbon when they put up the Mishkan, even though this is already close to 40 years later, but he was the same individual. Going back to the Mishnah, it said, Koyin sheshimish bituma. In one of the cases of a person that it says that a kano and poigim by is similar to kano and poigim by. The koyin that serves in the Beis Hamikdash with tumah, it says that the pirchei kohuna would take him out of the azara, and then with a club they would kill him. They break open his head and kill him. So koyin sheshimish bituma chayiv misa bidei shemayim or ain't chayiv misa bidei shemayim. If he's not going to be killed by the pirchei kohuna, is there a chayiv misa on what he did bidei shemayim or not? Amalei, so he answered, Tenisua, we learned this in a Braisa. Koyin sheshimish betuma, ein echav ha'koyin mevin oiseh lebezdin. They don't bring him to Bezdin. Or say in the Mishnah it says, they don't bring him to Bezdin. Now lepirchei kohanim matzin oiseh chutz lazara. The young of the kohanim take him outside. Upaitzan esmoicha b'gzirin, and they bash his head and they kill him. Now, if he would be chayiv misa that the Eibusher is going to kill him, so lish v'kei the little bit shemayim. So why do they have to go ahead and kill him? Let's leave him, and the Eibusher will kill him. So therefore, he says from here it's mashma that he's not chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. So the Gemara asks, but elamai, what are you going to say? Ain't a chayiv. He's not chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. Mi ikemidi the Rachmana patre. Could it be that the Torah says that he's pater? And we, the Pirchei Kohuna, can come and go ahead and kill him. So it must be that it's a case where he's really chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. So on this, the Gemara asks from a few cases. First of all, v'loi, is it not possible that you're not chayiv misa b'dei shemayim and still we can kill this person? But vatnan, we learned before in the Mishnah, it said mishalaka v'shana, one that does an aveda once, twice, and he gets Malchus twice, so then Bezdin machnis nice kippah. Then when it comes to the third time, Bezdin puts him into a kippah. So we see over here that this is a case where seemingly he's not chayiv any misa b'dei shemayim, and we're going to put him into a kippah to die. Rachmana patre v'anan katlina lei. So the Torah says he's pater, and we're going to put him into a kippah and he'll die. So the Gemara says, what's your question? We already learned before about this. So Amar Rav Yirmiyah, Amar Reish Lakish, b'malchus shel krisis askinon. There, it's not talking about any malchus. It's a malchus where the person is chayiv kares. The Gavra Bakatalahu. That this is a person actually that does a kares, which is misa b'dei shemayim, and that's why we can put him into a kippah and kill him. But the Gemara asks from another case, and when a person steals kasva, which the Gemara said before, one that steals the klisharis from the Beis Hamikdash, over there it's also kanon poigim bay, and seemingly there's no chiyav misa there that said about this case as well, and still we can kill him. Says the Gemara, but Rav Yehuda said the klisharis askinon. It's talking about one that steals klisharis or remiza, and there is a hint for this. It does say misa regarding this. Le'yavayu lirais kevalas hakodesh v'meisu, and we darshan before the Gemara on Daf Pei Aleph. Kevalas hakodesh means that someone hides and takes and steals from kodesh that meisu, he should die. But the Gemara asks from another case, v'ha mekal es hakoisem. The case of Mekalas a Kaisim that it said in the Mishnah, one that is a Kaisim, he's a sorcerer, and he curses, that he's also Kana and Paigim by, and seemingly is not Chayiv Misa as well, so how can we kill him? So on this as well, the Gemara says, what we learned before on Daf Pei Aleph, Hatana Rav Yosef said that this is a person that says, Yake Kaisim es Kaismai, that this Kaisim, he curses that this Kaisim should hit the opposite of a blessing on the Eibishter, the one that gives him this power of Kishiv. The Mechzi Kimavarach es Hashem. It looks like he's blessing, the opposite of blessing in Hashem's name, and therefore there is a Chiyav Misa that's shaykh by him, and that's why he's allowed to be killed when this happens. But how about the case of Boyal Aramis that Kanom Paigim Boy? Is there any Chiyav Misa for the Boyal Aramis? Says the Gemara, yes, because Rav Kahana, as we brought in the beginning of the Gemara, that he was read in the dream that Pasik and V'atkere Rav Gemara, and Rav remembered that it says there the Lashon of Kares regarding a person that's Boyal Aramis. So from here you see the conclusion of the Gemara. Most Rishonim say that the Boyal Aramis is Chayiv Misa. Elamai, that Chayiv Misa is done through the Boyal Aramis. If it's through the Kanoi, while it's Boyal Aramis, if it's B'shas Maisa.
It's not that he's not Chayiv Misa. The Gemara is saying that he is Chayiv Misa.
Yeah, here this Gemara is saying it is Chayiv Misa, but maybe it only means Misa B'dei Shemayim, and when the Kanoi is Poige, it's a different thing. It's nothing to do with that Misa B'dei Shemayim. Yeah, okay, let's finish off the Inyan. It goes a little bit down to Pei Gimel. So the Gemara asks on this, Eisvei. So again, we're talking there about the Kohen that's Mishamish B'tumeh in the Beis HaMikdash. And the Shaila is he Chayiv Misa or not? And the conclusion, the Gemara is basically saying now that he's not Chayiv necessarily Misa, That's the way Rav Sheshes answered this. And still, Paigim by. So the Gemara asks from what it says in Eisvei, Hayoitzik, Vahabailol. So this is talking about various different kinds of Avedis in the Beis HaMikdash. And these are, as we'll see, a unique category of Avedis. Hayaitzik means someone that is pouring the oil on the carbon mincha, or va'baylo, someone that mixes the mincha, va'paisis, or someone that takes the mincha, certain minchas after they're baked or fried in a pan, and then you have to crumb it, or hamileach, one that is going to salt the carbon mincha hamenif, or then you lift it up, hamegish, and you bring it to the mizbeach, the keren dreimis maravis of the mizbeach, or hamisader, as a shulchan, one that prepares the lechem upon him on the shulchan. Hametev is haneiros, or one that cleans out the neiros, preparing to light the menorah. Va'kaimitz, one that does the kmitze, the fistful that you take off to then afterwards burn on the mizbeach. Va'mekabel damim b'chutz, or someone that receives the blood of a carbon. Now, regarding all of these cases, if this is done b'chutz, if it's done outside of the Beis HaMikdash, pater. You're going to be pater on this. Because what's unique about all these Avedis, so Rashi here brings, for the Aveda of Bachutz, you only chayev whether it's Sheichit, that's the pasuk where it says in Parshas Achrei, Asher Yishchat, or Maila, meaning someone that actually burns a carbon outside, or also when someone sprays blood outside of the Beis HaMikdash, so there's a pasuk that's marbe that from Dam Shofach. Now, all of these that it mentions over here, the reason why you pater for them is because it's not compared to Maila. What's Maila? You're burning the carbon on the Mizbeach. That's a final, complete Aveda. There's no Aveda that follows after that. All of these Avedas that I mentioned there are in a category of an Aveda that there's another Aveda that follows. It's not the complete Aveda. So therefore, you're going to be pater if this is done outside of the Azara. Another thing, you're not going to be chayiv for doing any of these Avedas if it's a zar. It's not allowed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, and if he does, he's chayiv miseh, but not any of these Avedas. So Rashi says, because by the zar that does the Aveda, it says, Avadatem Avedas Matone, and the Gemara Darshans, Avedas Matone means an Aveda Tama. If it's an Aveda, there's no other Aveda that follows afterwards, which is not the case with all of these Avedas. There's another Aveda that follows, and Rashi goes through a few of them. Mashal by the lechem upon him, after the lechem upon him, you still have to remove the bezichin and so on. By the menorah, if you clean it out, afterwards you have to light the menorah and so on. So therefore, this is not called an aveda tama, so the zar will not be chayiv misa. And also v'lei mishum tuma, a kayin that's tamei and is doing this aveda is also not going to be chayiv. The kayin that does this aveda tamei and the zar that does the aveda in the Beis HaMikdash, Rashi brings, they learn from the same pasuk. There's a pasuk v'yunazru mikotche b'nei Yisrael v'lo yachalalu. So since they learned from the same pasuk, so we compare them. Just like by the zar has to be an aveda tama, the same with a kayin that serves with tumah to be chayev. It's only if it's done with an aveda tama, not any of these category of avedas. And v'loi mishum b'chusa begadim, and also a kayin that's serving the Beis HaMikdash and he's not wearing the big day kohuna. So a kayin that serves without big day kohuna, the pasuk says, and it's actually a pasuk here in this week's parsha, where it says v'chagarta isam avneit, that, and the Gemara darshans from this, when the kayin wears his begadim, he's a kayin. When he's not wearing the begadim, it's like he's not a kayin. It's like he's a zar, and therefore he's chayiv like the zar. So therefore, just like we said by the zar, the chiyuv will not apply in the case where it's not an aveda tama. It doesn't apply here by this isra as well when you're serving without the big day kohuna. And the last thing, and also he's not going to be chayiv for doing the aveda without washing the hands and the feet, because Rashi says this is also a gzeir shaveh chukah, which is learned out from the mechusa begadim, that they have the same halacha. Okay, so now one of the things that I mentioned over here is that we're talking about the tumah, a kain serving the Beis HaMikdash with tumah. So it says in all these avedas here, because it's not an aveda tama, you're not chayiv. So now, mekater, but if he's doing an aveda, the final aveda, the aveda tama of burning on the mizbeach, and he's tomei chayiv, he will be chayiv. Now what chayiv will he be chayiv? My love misa. Don't you think he would be chayiv misa? So you see over here that you are chayiv misa for doing for a kayin doing the aveda betoma. Says the Gemara, light not necessarily doesn't mean he would be chayiv misa ba'az hara. It's a lav, but he's not chayiv misa. But the Gemara says, don't we compare it to the other thing that's mentioned here? So Elazar Nami, by Azar as well as Hara. You're going to say Azar that does the Aveda of the Beis HaMikdash is only going to be chayiv with a lav and not misa. But Vaksiv, by the Zar it says, Vazar HaKarev Yumas, that he is chayiv misa. So it seems like it mentions Tumah, and we compared the Tumah to the Zar, that it should also be chayiv misa. But the Gemara says not necessarily. Ha kedisa, ha kedisa. Each one gets its punishment, which are different. Okay, but now the Gemara says, how could you say over here that by the Tumer, there's only a chiyuv of a lav. Miklal, the Yoitzik, ubailol lav nami loy. So what do you mean to say that the kind that does the Aveda in the Beis HaMikdash and he's Tameh, that it's not even going to be a lav either? Because you're saying that's all he's chayiv, a lav. And these Avedas which are not an Aveda Tama, he's not going to be chayiv as a lav either. But Vatanya, Azhar Yoitzik ubailol minayin, what's the source for this, that when one pours the oil or he mixes the carbon mincha, so what's the warning for this, that you shouldn't do it if he's Tameh? So the Gemara says, because it says Tamad Loima Kedoshim Yu V'lo Yechalalu. That pasuk Kedoshim Yu is an extra pasuk, because as I mentioned before, Rashi says you already learn out from another pasuk V'yinozru Mikotche B'nei Yisrael, that a kohen that's Tommy should not do the Aveda. So this additional pasuk Kedoshim Yu V'lo Yechalalu comes to add even the Yaitzik and the Bailo. So it seems like it's a drasha that's saying that is a lav. So if you're telling me that always when a kohen serves, even when he's doing the haktara, the aveda tama, it's only a lav, so then what's the difference? This is a lav and that's a lav. So why is there an exception here? Says the Gemara, no, this drash here midrabanan. This is all only midrabanan ukra asmachta ba'alme. This pasuk that it just brought kedoshim yiyu is only an asmachta, but min atayre it's not a real issa. It's not a drasha. Okay, so therefore we could still say like what Rav Shesha said before, that the kohen Tommy that serves in the Beis HaMikdash is not chayiv misa. But the Gemara concludes, the Gemara refutes this. Meisvei, they asked from the Lashon of Abraisa, where it says, Ve'elu hein shebemisa. The following are going to be chayiv misa, and one of them is, and this is a misa b'dei shamayim, tomei sheshimish. There's a whole list in the Braisa, which the Gemara is going to later explain. One of them is the tomei that serves in the Beis HaMikdash. It's a clear Braisa. So Yufta, so this refutes the answer of Rav Sheshes, and you are chayiv misa.